Listening to the Queen's Corner on Project Discourse Radio, where everyday people discuss everyday things. Please stay tuned for our upcoming dialogue on the path to hope, coping with the loss of a child. Are you looking for inspirational Bible-based stories to share with your children, friends, or church congregation? You filter your music and TV shows. Why not filter what you read? BryanJabouin is a Christian author who writes stories that teach biblical morals and lessons. Fun and engaging, these stories are packed full of action and adventure that will motivate and inspire all those who read them. Join Bryan on his journey to build a new generation of Christian writers and readers. Visit his website, BryanJabouin.online, and subscribe to his mailing list to receive a free copy of his first short story, The Black Pearl. You can also reach Bryan by email at BryanJabouin@gmail.com.
Speaking to my soul, my soul, tell me, can I heal? Can you make me whole? Is your love for real? 'Cause I can't seem to deal. I need your love, your grace. These times are hard to face. Can't think, can't sleep. Father, please restore my peace. My soul, my knees, this fall. I want to be alright. My heart, no break. This world can't go down without a fight. I'm losing me. Please hear my plea, I'm struggling. I need your love, your grace. My troubles I can't face. No strength, no heart, no will. My peace of mind, it came to stay. My soul, my knees, this floor. Let my peace be still. Heavenly Father, all I wanna do is heal. Days full of darkness, cold and lonely nights. Demons got me cornered, got me putting up a fight. All I wanna do is put my life back on track. Can't get ahead cause they always on attack. I'm separate from my fam, missing all my friends, dealing with abandonment when this gon' end. My mama been missing for about 2 years, trying to endure while facing all my fears. I'm trying to stay conscious, I'm trying to stay woke. My granny had a stroke and I couldn't even cope. She's the closest thing to me, never thought I'd leave her side. Wasn't home to grieve when my cousin Marcus died. I can't look back, I gotta keep it moving forward. All I wanna do is serve my God and stay in order. It's go, it's go, it's go, it's go, it's go, it's go.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl, Stephanie, and thank you for tuning in to the Project Discourse podcast, where everyday people discuss everyday things. First and foremost, we want to give all praise, glory, and honor to our Father, the Creator, for allowing us to see another day, and a very special thank you to all of our listeners for joining us. This is an extraordinary segment because today we're kicking off our Queen's Corner series of the podcast. And although we welcome and encourage our brothers to tune in, this series is designed to be a place where sisters can discuss topics specific to our struggles. I would like to welcome my guest panel members to the show. With us today, we have Sister Winnie, Sister Nakia, Sister Shantae, who's also my cousin, as well as my beloved sister and friend, my co-host, Sister Lakita. Everyone, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you.
Thank you
For having us.
Okay, so in an emotionally charged discussion, these brave women are here today to share their stories on loss and how they learn to cope with the kind of grief a mother should never have to experience, the death of a child. Being a parent is arguably the most arduous yet beautiful experiences in a person's life. Parents often dream of the day when their children grow up and become upstanding people who righteously contribute to society while raising their own families. However, for some fathers and mothers, those dreams are unexpectedly cut short and dreams turn into nightmares. Death is already an emotionally debilitating occurrence that we must all endure at one point or another, but the death of a child can be paralyzing. Oftentimes, we are afraid to speak to parents who lost their children due to fear, not wanting to conjure unspeakable grief. Today, our guest panel members are here to tear down the notion that talking about the death of a child is taboo, be it to a horrific accident, stillbirth, SIDS, or miscarriages. These women want nothing more than to tell their stories so that they can help promote healing to grieving families and understanding to the people who support families in the same unfortunate situation. To introduce our first guest, I would like to start by reading a quote she posted on one of her social media accounts. "Through this darkness, there is light. The darkness is still there, but it's not as dark. As I reach and search for the light to lift this burden of sorrow from my aching heart, the light blesses me. I travel this road of grief as a part of my journey, and I hope that I have grace. Life is always about you. Be kind always, but you never know whose life you may touch." Those are very powerful words from Sister Winnie. So, Sister Winnie, I would like for you to tell us your story and expound on these words of wisdom and truth.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. This has been a very powerful week for me, and I'm coming up on my daughter's birthday, 30th birthday, next Tuesday, as a matter of fact. And so this is pretty on point for me right now. My daughter was 18, a senior in high school, when she was killed by a tanker truck driver carrying 8,200 gallons worth of fuel. I happened to be there that night and witnessed the inferno. And any parent's nightmare is I could not save her. So she's been gone for 11 years. And it's been, some of those years, it's been really, really dark. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed. And there were nights when I couldn't go to sleep because the nightmares were so horrendous. It was like my heart had been cut out of my body. It was really, I lost my best friend that night. She was everything. She was my sunshine, and that was one of the songs that I used to sing to her all the time, is "You Are My Sunshine." And she was pretty special. She was kind. She was caring. Um, she was a typical teenage girl. She was active in school, a cheerleader, a softball player. Uh, she sang in the chorus. She worked part-time. Um, she was the epitome of grace. And her life was cut short on January 28th, 2007. It has not been a journey that I wanted to participate in. And I think as parents, a lot of us don't want to participate in it either. It's not a group that I wanted to join. So here I am 11 years later. The journey has been hard. It has not been easy. And I don't think it's easy for any of us. Stephanie touched on one of those, about people shying away from you, people being afraid to say their name. And I'm very strong in the part of saying my child's name. My daughter's name is Ashley, and I want you to talk about her. I want you to ask me about her. I want to tell you about her. I want to shout her name from the rooftop. I don't want people to be afraid to ask me about it. She was my pride and joy, and I loved her with every being of my body. Through the darkness that I have come, I have found the light. Sometimes it's not that bright. Sometimes it's dim. But I have a life now that I would never have imagined. It's so hard to explain sometimes. It's, when my daughter was killed, and I say that she was killed because she didn't pass away. She didn't die. She was killed. And I think for all of us, it doesn't matter whether our children, how they died, how they were killed, how any of it happens. We have all suffered a serious, horrible, dark loss. And nothing will ever get that back for us. I actually had somebody ask me the other day if I had the chance to have an hour with Ashley again, or if I had the opportunity to spend the day with her and then she would be gone again, if I would take that opportunity. And I told them no. And they looked at me and they said no. And I said, I could not go through that pain. That pain is so horrendous that only somebody that has lost a child understands. I can't imagine going through that again. I don't think I would survive it. I barely survived her death. I don't think I could survive it a second time.
Wow.
So I've had 11 years. My grief and my sorrow has gotten softer. It's gotten gentler, but it hasn't gone away, and it's never going to go away. And it's something that I live with every day. I still have days where I don't want to get out of bed, where I don't want to participate in life, where I don't want to talk to anybody, where I want to lay in bed and wallow in my misery and my sorrow and my self-pity. But I know that for me, I have to put one foot in front of the other, and I have to continue to move forward. And I have to continue to say her name, and I have to continue to talk about her, because that's what I have left of her, are the memories. And I want to share those with everybody. And I remember when Ashley was killed, I had parents that were afraid to be around me because they thought it was contagious. I had parents that were to say anything to me. They didn't know what to say. They were afraid that they would say the wrong thing. And I get that. I get that now. I understand their fear. And then I had some parents that actually just came up and hugged me and said they were sorry. And sometimes that's all I needed to hear was, I'm sorry. The death of a child, it's so touchy because people don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. But it's really, it's sad too, because after a few weeks, after a couple of months, after 6 months, people forget. People forget. And we're left alone with our sorrow and our grief and nowhere to put it. Nowhere to put it. And I would love to have it to where people would talk about grief more, talk about sorrow more, talk about the death of a loved one more. we need to have that healing. We need to have those wounds opened up and soothed. And that's one thing that we don't have nowadays. And that makes me sad. It makes me sad that so many of us that have lost a child don't have that outlet. And we don't have those friends, and we don't have that way to talk to each other. I had somebody actually tell me once, after Ashley had been gone or died, she had been gone for 6 months, asked me if why wasn't I over it yet?
Wow.
Gosh.
Sometimes, you just have to look at people and feel sorry for them, and be thankful that they haven't had to experience what I've had to experience. That's right. How I've had to look at things. So I miss her with everything that I have. I've had some wonderful things happen this week. And, like I said, I was just talking to somebody today. I wish there was a word that had joy and sorrow intertwined, because those are the two emotions that I'm feeling right now, joy and sorrow. And it's so weird to have those two emotions at the same time. And I'm blessed that Stephanie reached out to me and asked me to be part of. This is amazing that we could all come together and talk about something that is so taboo. You don't talk about it with, a certain kind of people or certain people. You don't talk about it with everybody. And the death of a child is one of the most horrendous things that any of us suffer. And it's something that needs to put out there, so that it's not taboo and that people aren't afraid to say our children's names. And that's just how it is. I say her name every day, Ashley Megan, because that's who she was. And she was really special to me and to a lot of other people. So.
Well, actually, Winnie, there is a word that can encompass, joy and sorrow at the same time. And that word is love.
I agree.
It's love. Because honestly, I have never had a child. I've never been pregnant, but I have loved and I have felt that sorrow. There are people who have, passed away. And of course, it's nothing like the loss of, a child. But when you think about love and everything that comes with it, there's fear, there's joy, there's sorrow. There's so many emotions wrapped up in that one little word. It can kill or it can bring life.
Yeah. You're right. It is love. And, not to minimize death of anybody, because the death of a child, of a parent, of a grandparent, of a sibling, death is not pretty. Death is not pretty. It's the people that are left behind are the ones that still have to live. And, that's what I've always said, is death is not pretty, regardless of who it is. My dad passed away or died in April of 2013, and it was the worst, one of the worst things that could ever happen to me. My hero died. And there you go again. It's mixed with sorrow. It's the sadness, the grief. And I think death for everybody is just not, it's a part of life, but it's not something that I like to participate in. I don't want to participate, but yet I've been thrown into it. We've suffered a lot of tragedy in my family. My daughter, my dad. I've had a nephew that died, and a cousin that died just in the last 5 years. Those 3 people have died. So it's been a pretty tragic 11 years for our family. But out of the darkness, we have risen. We have risen.
Okay. Thank you, Winnie, for your story. We will definitely go deeper into the emotional aspect of how you lost Ashley and how you ended up coping with her death. I would like to give the floor to Nakia. I would like for Nakia to tell her story so that we can understand there are different levels to death. There are different emotions. People grieve differently. The point that we would like to make today is that there is not one particular way to grieve, because everyone has their own personalities and everyone's connection to someone else is different. And so, like you had 18 years with Ashley, very much so shared about, we go into someone like Nakia, and Nakia can tell her story of what happened with her.
Sure. Thanks again for having me. I do want to say to Winnie, I connect with you on so many levels. As Stephanie said, my loss is very different from yours. There's very little comparison in our stories. I wasn't blessed to have so many years with my child, but I connect with you in the hope that my son Caleb doesn't become the elephant in the room. It is very therapeutic for me to talk about my loss, and talking about it is what has gotten me through. But your description of your daughter and your relationship with her was just touching and beautiful. Please continue to keep her memory alive. That was, I appreciate being able to hear that from you.
Thank you.
I have experienced the event of stillbirth. In 2009, just 9 years ago, I was pregnant with my second son. My oldest son, Khalil, was 6 years old at the time, and we found out that we were having another boy, and we were excited, obviously, to welcome our new addition. I had a lot of factors that made my pregnancy a high-risk one, and it wasn't an easy pregnancy. I was diagnosed very early on with gestational diabetes, hypertension. I had to monitor my glucose levels 4 times a day and take insulin shots. And a lot of women go through that. That's standard for a lot of women who just have high-risk pregnancies. But because of the risk level, toward the end of my pregnancy, I was having ultrasounds twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays for about the last 7 to 8 weeks of the pregnancy. And I really had a false, a shield kind of blinding me, in that I just had this false reality that because I was being monitored so closely, there was just no way that anything was going to happen or be amiss in the pregnancy. So at about 38 weeks, I went in for my Monday ultrasound, and I expressed to the nurse and the doctor at that time that I wasn't feeling much movement from the baby. They tell pregnant women that when you eat, a baby should move like 10 plus times after your meal, and to track that. And I felt like I was getting maybe 1 to 2 bumps after a meal, and very quickly after that, wasn't feeling much of anything at all. So I told the doctor that during the ultrasound, and we heard the heartbeat together. They were doing a very detailed ultrasound every time, and he assured me everything was okay, and just said the baby's getting bigger, he's running out of room, and that's why the movements are less. I trusted him. I went with that. I went on Tuesday and Wednesday about my business, came in Thursday morning for a follow-up for the next ultrasound, the second one in that week. And I told them, again, I'm not feeling much movement. And when they performed the ultrasound, and I'm paraphrasing in so many words, the doctor informed me that there was no heartbeat, and I was to deliver a deceased child that afternoon.
Oh.
It was heart-wrenching. I immediately went into feelings of guilt for not pushing harder on Monday when there was a heartbeat to say, something's not right, I need a second opinion, I'm not feeling, movement like I feel I should be. And so I immediately felt that as soon as I made the call to my then boyfriend, we're married now, but as soon as I made the call to him to tell him that we had lost our baby, that people would place blame on me for not having maybe monitored my glucose too closely, or, you know, exercising enough to keep my blood pressure and my glucose levels down. So I immediately went into that. But I had a lot of family with me and a lot of support, and we did deliver Caleb that very afternoon. I had the opportunity to hold him. He was perfect in every way. And I don't want to like be gruesome or have this be TMI, but there was evidence of his body that he had been deceased for days. Just a very difficult time. I had to really, I felt, you know, I needed to be strong. I had a son that was 6 years old that was anticipating a baby coming home with mom. And it was difficult.
Oh my God.
I'll stop there, Stephanie, for now.
Okay, whenever you're ready, we'll bring you back in.
Thank you.
I know that you have a lot more to say. And
yes.
say that I was with Nakia during that time. And as a person of support, that event greatly affected me to see someone that I really love go through something like that. I just remember being in the hospital with her that night. Mm-hmm. I bought her favorite string cheese because she loves polio string cheese. You know, it was the middle of the night, and you know, we lived, you know, very far from the hospital, but there was nothing that would have kept me from her during that time. You know, when you see someone that you care for grieve, you grieve with them. The levels are definitely not the same. The feelings are not the same. You hurt because they hurt. And, you know, I'll let Nakia tell finish her story. And we can to Sister Shantae.
Hello, thank you for having me here for today. I'm Shantae Jones, cousin of Miss Stephanie. Mine dealt with a little similar, hurts my heart of so much to understand how you feel. Mine came where I had a son, Terrell, in 2009 of February. He was born on February 3rd at 6:45 in the morning, 9 pounds, 6 ounces. Healthy baby boy. 3 weeks and 5 days later.
Shantae, can you speak a little louder? We can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
That's perfect. Okay, you might have to start over from the beginning because I don't think anyone could actually hear you.
Okay. I said my son was born February 3rd in 2009. And 3 weeks and 5 days later of February, which will be February 28th, my son passed. At that present time, we were at home. He passed at home. He rolled over while we were asleep. So he passed at home in his bed. I still had time to, you know, try to understand, well, why do I have to go through this, and why my son at that present time. As far as our chain, we have only had one person that will pass from all of my grandmother's kids, grandkids, and great-grands. My son was actually the first to have something so heroic taken from me so soon. I was like I was missing a whole lot. But you know, as they say, things happen for a reason. God put an angel here. And that's where he's been an angel since 2009. It's been quite hard, like she said, but trying to figure out, you know, how to deal with it, how to cope with it, how hard it's been. But he has actually been the person that's able to keep me sane going through all of this, through my difficult times.
Shantae, we can't really hear you. There's something blocking your microphone. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
That's better, much better. Okay, stay like that.
Okay. Well, in 2009, you know, a lot of people have not met my son. As far as I was aware, I think Stephanie met him for the first time at my home, and she would not let nobody else touch my child then. I think she stayed for like 2 hours, and she was like, Mom, you can go ahead home. I'll come see you later. I'm like, well, we're going to see Grandma. Well, I'll come see her in a little bit. I'm going to stay right here. And I ended up having to take her home at that point. But, you know, a lot of people didn't have the time to meet him. It was like it was too fast. It just seemed so like I was living a dream that no mother would like to go through.
Yep.
Like she said, it's like the elephant in the room, wanting to know why or what happened. It just felt like I was like, oh, what more could I do?
What, Shantae, exactly happened?
Well, as far as a lot of kids start early as far as moving around and being busy. My son was a week old and rolling over. So it came from that being the issue. He rolled over while we were asleep. Now I've caught him once or twice before, but at that present time it was a little too late. He had not had the air for over, I think she said, at least 2 minutes, and that was a little too long. For him being so little, and the lungs were, you know, still undeveloped.
Oh, okay. So this happened when he was how old?
3 weeks and 5 days.
3 weeks and 5 days, born in February.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your story. Definitely during the next segment, we will go into some questions on how to cope with grief and loss. But now I would like to hand the floor over to Hida, and I would like for Hida to tell her story and how she has been impacted by the death of her sons or daughters. Lakita, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My story is a little lengthy. Please bear with me. Okay, so my name is Lakita Host, and my story is mainly based around miscarriages. So I've had a total of 3 miscarriages and lost 4 babies. The first miscarriage, I didn't even know I was pregnant. Had no signs and symptoms. Just, found out one day using the restroom. On the second miscarriage, I went until about 5 months. I felt pretty healthy during that pregnancy. No real complaints. I was very, healthy, heard the heartbeats and everything. For my, I guess it was like between the week or 20th week, I went to the doctor and he did an ultrasound, and he said there's no heartbeat. And I'm like, what do you mean no heartbeat? Can you check again? And so he checked again, and you know, of course I was in denial. Everything seemed fine, you know. I did have a moment prior to that visit where I felt like my heart was doing flutters. I did have a history of anemia. So when I asked the doctor about that, he said, you know, we'll check your blood, we'll get some blood work done, and then if you're anemic, we'll start iron pills. So anyway, I was like, well, could this be a mistake? And he said, it's possible. He told me to come back in a week and he redo the ultrasound. Well, I ended up going to another doctor and the results were the same. And so ultimately, you know, they wanted to induce me because they couldn't go inside and do a DNC. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to do a DNC, and I mean, I'm sorry, they weren't able to do a DNC because I was too far along. So they wanted to induce me so I would actually have labor to deliver the baby. So I didn't want that option. I wanted to have it as natural as possible. So at that point, the doctor said that the baby had been dead for about 2 weeks. Oh. And so, yeah, they couldn't even tell me about how long it would take for the baby to come out. So anyway, praise the Father that it took a week for it to come out. And I had it at home. You know, I didn't want to be in the hospitals and certain things I had heard certain stories I had heard about what they do to unborn fetuses and things like that. So I didn't even want, you know, I wanted to have it at home. That happened. Okay, so that was the second miscarriage. Approximately 6 months later, well, first, let me say this. I was very upset. I was sad, but, you know, because I was working and everything, I just became kind of numb to it, and I just moved on. I just moved on. I tried not to dwell on it too much. I was kind of in that mind frame, like, listen, everything happens for a reason. It was hurtful, but that was my way of coping, you know, just to kind of like keep it moving. So about 6 months later, I was pregnant again. Found out I was pregnant again. I went to the doctor. She told me, you have 2 sacs. I see 2 sacs in there. So she said, it's twins. And I'm like, what? So in my mind, I'm like, you know, the Father is blessing me, you know, double from the previous miscarriages I've already had. So I was just so ecstatic, you know. And then in that same visit, she told me that she saw one, you know, egg or one baby in the sac, then the other one she didn't see anything. And she said, you know, it could be hiding because I was still really early. And, you know, she told me to be, she put me on bed rest. And, but eventually she told me that if this was the case, I can't even remember what they call it, but it's where one twin, the one that dies, is absorbed into the other one or something like that. It absorbs in the womb. I have 2. There's a possibility that one might not be alive. I didn't really know how I was feeling. Like I was just in shock 6 months prior. So it's like some things I don't even remember because I honestly was trying to block and, you know, some emotions out. Well, long story short, I ended up having a miscarriage with that one as well, with the twins as well. I was about, I think I had just made 12 weeks. So, yeah, so after that, again, trying to mask everything, you know, keep moving, keep pushing. you know, just thankful to be alive anyway, you know. So this time around, I want to say it was about, I'm sorry, guys, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I can't even remember the time frame. I want to say it was about 3 or 4 months later. So those were the miscarriages. 3 or 4 months later, because my husband and I had been trying. So I really, really, really wanted this baby. Okay. So my husband and I, this last round, we weren't trying, you know, but it ended up happening. And I went through hell with the last pregnancy. But, you know, the Father, he really blessed me, but I had to go through a lot just to have this child. And my son now, who just turned 1 last Friday, he, oh my goodness, he really brings joy to my life. And I really thank the Father every day for allowing me to have him. But I did go through a really, really tough pregnancy. I didn't mention with that miscarriage where I went to about 5 months, where I had the baby at home. I forgot to mention with that particular pregnancy, you remember I wanted to have it natural at home. Well, after I had it naturally at home, I went to the doctor. And when she did the ultrasound, she saw that the baby was out. And, but she still saw like little, particles in there. So she wanted to do a D&C. So I agreed. And what I didn't know is how that D&C would affect me with my current pregnancy.
Wow.
The pregnancy, I only have 1 child. So this last pregnancy with my son, that affected me to where when I was pregnant with him, I had something called placenta previa. And it's when your placenta, for those who don't know, is whenever your placenta basically covers your cervix. So, and if it doesn't move up and out of the way before you go into labor, the placenta would come out first and the baby last, which is not a good thing. The baby would basically lose oxygen and all of that. So I had to be on bed rest from 6 months all the way till my 33rd week of pregnancy. So my son was born 8 weeks early, or 7.5 weeks early. So yeah, that was a really hard time, how I got through that pregnancy, because I was on bed rest. My husband had to work every day, do everything. I literally could only go to the bathroom and then back on the couch, because I would be bleeding. It would cause you to bleed, and I would be bleeding profusely. Okay, so I had a conversation with my doctor. She said I was already anemic, and so she said she was like she wanted to talk about what do they call it, blood transfusions. And so because of my beliefs, you know, I told her, well, you know, and she was like, well, I mean, you know, she just pushed me to eat certain foods and to, you know, take my iron. So I was being very strict with myself with my diet and taking my iron. But I was losing so much blood, I couldn't keep up. And so my blood levels couldn't keep up. So, you know, I had to go back and forth to the hospital, and they really couldn't help me, because I was at the point where, okay, everything started at 24 weeks, and I live overseas. And so the technology for premature babies is not that there is not really developed beyond, like if they're born before, I believe, like 30 weeks or something like that. It's very, they don't really have the technology here for that. So, you know, that was my constant concern. And she was like, well, so I would go to the doctor and she would be like, well, we really can't do anything for you because if your baby comes out too early, it's not good. So I kept the baby as long as I could. And it came to a point where I was reading the scriptures daily because that's where I got my strength from. And I was battling in my mind, you know, the blood transfusion was on my mind every day. Should I get this blood transfusion? Should I get this blood transfusion? And it was on my spirit. No, don't do it. So I read the scriptures and one day, because honestly, I was at home by myself and that's all I could do. That's the only thing that was keeping me was the word. So, and you know, the Father, he knows exactly when to place certain things on you. And it was clear as day when I was reading, which was in Acts chapter 15, verse 20 and verse 29, when it talks about staying away and abstaining from blood. And that came to me so strongly. It's like I couldn't even deny it. I didn't even want to talk to my husband.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even want to talk to my husband about it because I felt like if I speak about it, I'm going to be accountable for that. Like even, you know, I'm like, you know, what if I need this blood? What am I going to do? And he was like, well, if you need it, we're going to do it. And I'm like, no, but I feel so strongly in my spirit, I'm not supposed to take this blood. So the scriptures confirmed it. And in my mind, I was just like, I'm scared, but I have to do what was revealed to me. And so anyway, okay, you know, 33 weeks in of the pregnancy, after going through every single thing, I woke up in a pool of blood. Fingernails were blue, my toes were blue, but I was so calm. I was so calm.
Wow.
And let me tell you, it's funny now, but I went and I took a shower. I'm like, you know, I needed to be in a rush, but I took a shower. I waited for my husband to get ready. We packed bags. And mind you, the hospital was like an hour away.
Oh my God.
Yes, the hospital was an hour away. And I could feel this little tap, 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 tap. So I'm like, okay, the tapping, is that the baby moving, you know? So I didn't know for sure. But I'm going to pause here with the story because Stephanie revealed something to me as well from a dream that she had. And I want Stephanie to share that with you. And then I'll continue my story.
Okay. So every sister out here that I am, not every, I would say about majority of them, I've dreamt of their pregnancies every time they've been pregnant. And I had a dream one night that I was in beach area, and I was with a brother and a sister out here with their daughter, and we were just standing in the beach, and I was looking down at my toes and their toes, and we were standing on rocks and clear water, and there were little fish swimming. So you know, my conscious, I knew that someone was pregnant. We already knew that, you know, Keita was pregnant. The sister that was next to me in the dream, she ended up becoming pregnant. But so when I lifted my head, I saw this big, ugly, black bird, kind of like the bird on Finding Nemo, the pelicans when they were mine. You know that part where they, you know, little birds, they were just really like scraggly looking. Well, there was this one black bird, and he was flying around the sea, picking out the fish, killing them, eating them. And I was like, why is this bird like picking out and eating all these fish. Like, what's happening? And it kind of made me nervous. Like, and I was like, what is this? You know, why is this bird doing this? And then I look down and I see a white bird, and this white pelican-looking bird, he's just swimming in the sea, all calm, and just like he had like this goofy smile on his face. And there was this one fish that he was protecting. And this little black bird is going around. He was literally plucking every single fish he could take. And I sat and wondered at this one white bird and this fish. And so I woke up and I called my friend here, and I told her about this dream. And I was like, I think this dream is about Kita and her baby, because when I think Kita and I talked about it, I don't remember, but if I didn't, she's about to find out now. But when she first told me she was pregnant the first time, it fell on my spirit that she would lose her baby, but I didn't say it to her. I said it to another person, and I cried that whole night because, you know, I don't want to feel these kinds of things. And so when she lost her baby, I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to go and visit her because I somehow felt that maybe I should have, said something to her. The truth of the matter is, it's like Kita and I, we both have altered our lives, and we both left the States for spiritual reasons. And honestly, this particular walk is extremely difficult. And there are so many things that happen to you spiritually that cannot be explained, and you can only talk about them to people who would understand. And so when I felt that she would lose her baby, I was really affected by it. And, I felt horrible when the situation happened. But when this dream happened, I didn't want to immediately go to her and say, your baby is going to be okay, because what if I was wrong? What if that black bird was going to take her baby? But the Most High said, no, her baby is going to be fine. And I felt calm about it. So I called her and I told her, and I said, Kita, you're going to have this baby and you're going to be okay. And she had her baby. He came, and is a beautiful, strong, chunky little monkey, and I just love him to pieces. I feel so connected to this child, and when I see him and he's smiling, it's just a beautiful thing to see for me. So I can only imagine what it would feel like for her to see, such, a miracle like that. And so, all of you are connected in one way or another with your stories. Mm-hmm. And there was one thing that all of you said, with the exception of Kita, that people have treated you like your children did not exist. Mm-hmm. And what we will do is we will take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the treatment that you received, how you coped, and basically your emotions throughout your whole ordeal, because it's important that people understand how to deal with grief, because a lot of people don't know how to deal with it. I don't want to cut Kita off, so I will let her finish her story, and then we can take a little break and come back and go into the Q&A, and then we can start to heal. Akita, are you with us?
I'll try to wrap it up. But I was saying earlier about the DNC, how it affected me. It caused scar tissue in my uterus, and so so I guess the placenta didn't attach where maybe it should have been. So that's how the DNC affected me. Okay, so anyway, I'm at the hospital. They have to do an emergency surgery. The doctor wants me to sign consent forms to take out my uterus if the bleeding doesn't stop. you know, I battled with that for a while, but I ended up signing a consent form. And I wake up after the surgery. The doctor comes in and she tells me, she said, number one, she was like, oh, mind you, before the surgery, she told me that they were going to order blood because just in case I needed it. And I told her, no, I'm not going to use the blood. She was like, okay, well, we'll just keep it. And after the surgery, you could let me know, that they'll, we'll discuss it. And I was like, okay. So anyway, the doctor comes in and she tells me, she's like, number one, she was like, your blood was so low. She said, so on average, they said that your blood level is supposed to be, I guess, between like a 12 and a 14. She told me before the surgery, it had dropped down to the 7. It dropped down to a 7. I guess when I got there, it was at a 7. And so mind you, I have to have surgery causes bleeding as well. So she said after the surgery, I went down to a 5. Okay. And so she's like, but we just checked your blood again and you're back at a 7. And she was just dumbfounded of like how it went from a 5 to a 7 within, a couple hours. And I'm like, listen, it's my Father in heaven. That's who did it. So basically she ordered 2 liters of blood, and the 2 liters that I would have used, the Most High restored back to me within 2 hours, And then I started to question, I'm like, what if I would have taken that blood and passed away, And I go to the Father in heaven and he tells me I didn't listen. So he restored it. And after that, it was she also told me that the umbilical cord was wrapped around my son's neck. So this was the tapping that I was feeling the whole time on the way to the hospital. So it was the process afterwards was very hard, but I am so glad to say that I have made it through. And I'm just so thankful, I believe Winnie was saying at the beginning, that light is dim, but for at least it's still a light there. You can see that little beacon of light through the darkness. So it was hard, but, and I still deal with it to this day, like even the responsibility of trying to have another child. I honestly, if I'm honest, it's very scary for me to even try it again, with everything that I've been through. Yeah. So that's my story, and I thank you all for listening.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your story. I know it's very difficult. We had some times where I was crying. I could hear others crying, but all of you ladies, one thing that you have in common right now at this very moment is that you made it, and you're still here, and you're still surviving, and you're still pushing through. And that's the light inside of you. So with that said, what we'll do is we'll take a brief 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll do our Q&A session, and then we can just wrap it up. Okay? Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Hashem, Yeshaya, then open up them doors. I praise him daily no matter what, cause I'm the one he chose. My iniquity shall not bound me, I'll make my love wax cold. Was tried in that fire, now I'm shining like some gold, gold, gold. What do we have to do? Yeah. What do we have to do? Yeah. What do we have to do? Yeah. He molded me, he chose me, so I gotta do what's necessary to make sure he holds me. The adversary had his time to control me. Yeah, he really had a hold on me. But praise the Most High, the truth shall make you free. And it ain't easy, no, but it's needed though. Do you have what it takes to complete this journey though? You say you love him, fear him, have faith in him, but do you know him? Remember, don't lean on your own understanding. To love the Most High, you must keep his commandments. Judah don't serve no Buddha, no other gods than a higher. Take them Jesus pieces off, them crosses off, cause that ain't Yeshaya. Only bow down to the Most Higher, higher on the Sabbath. No clubbing, no going to work. Just praise the Most High, give him what he is worth. Praise the Most High, give him what he is worth. What do we have to do? Yeah. What do we have to do? Yeah.
We do.
What do we have to do? Yeah. Higher by Hashem, Yeshaya, then open up them doors. I praise him daily no matter what, cause I'm the one he chose. My iniquity shall not bound me, I'll make my love wax cold. Was tried in that fire, now I'm shining like some gold, gold, gold. What do we have to do? Yeah. What do we have to do? Yeah.
We do.
What do we have
I feel you, Kaya. I been asking the same question, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, said I was caught in a vulnerable state where I didn't have enough faith, and my occupation was shaky, and all my partners was fake. Then I said it gotta be a better way, so I packed my bags and I skate, and left my comfortable station, and then flow flat on my face. Yeah, but I had a plan for me. He let me go through the fire, then he fanned on me. He let all other brothers put their hands on me. Barack power for the heat, and then it dawned on me. Oops, I mean it dawned on me. Now he got a son on me, and Rawak is the one who put the song on me. All praises to our higher by Hashem Yeshaya.
All gold, everything in my white attire.
I'm so fresh out the water, had to kill a liar. And my desire to keep sinning, man, I'm so retired. Got a contract with the Father and it won't expire. Won't fade, won't fold, and it won't dry up. Long as I can stay humble, make it keeping the commandments. Ain't a hater for him that gets speaking outstanding. Long as I can stay prayed up and on my knees, ain't no weapon against me that's gonna succeed. What do we do?
What do we do? Yeah. What do we do? Yeah.
Success is attained when effort is put forth. Your life is your business. Why not make it a success? PD 360 LLC is your source for professional and personal life coaching. Let someone help you discover and reach your goals, build your legacy, and live the life you actually want. Contact your life coach today, Robin LaCroix, at IHaveQuestions at pd4u360.com or call 443-914-2941. Again, that number is 443-914-2941.
Oh,
you forget about it. You do whatever, he gives the word. You wonder why your life's hard, and you wanna ask questions. Who do you really love? Do you really love the Most High? Do ya? Do you love him? Do ya? Do you really love him? Who do you really love? Do you really love the Most High? Do ya? Do ya? Do ya? All I really gotta do is take a look at your actions. How you got distracted? Tell me what happened. Man told you lies and you ate them like crackers. When you hear the truth, you say it don't matter. Cursing out your mouth, gossiping with chit chatter. Wanna be considered, let me hand you a ladder. Don't worry, it can save your life if you want a chance. Story so good, they can put you in a trance. Do you really love? Do you love the Most High? Do ya? Do you love him? Do ya? Do you really love him? Oh, do you really love? Do you really love the Most High? Do ya? Do ya? Do ya?
The love of your art, as well as the process, will always ensure that you are invested in your craft and the mission of art. Literacy is still a shortcoming in America, as well as those outside of our borders. However, imagination and seeing beyond the fear of failure are problems that affect our adult population. The lit life, in us we trust. That's built upon the understanding that literacy is the main pillar of crafting a life without boundaries. And with that, new minds may emerge and join the mission for the greater good. Contact Michael Lawrence at paperpiglitin@gmail.com for more information on how we can work together to improve tomorrow, today. Welcome back, everyone. We can go ahead and we can start with our Q&A session. It was an emotional first half of the podcast, and it takes bravery to speak about these things that are so painful. One thing I wanted to know from all of you, and it's probably the most important thing, I wanted to know how the men in your lives responded to your grief and to the situation. We often look at the loss of a child. We often look at the mother. We don't really consider the fathers, and they feel, grief just like everyone else. I wanted to know how the men in your lives were affected. I'd like to direct this one first to Nakia, then Winnie, then Kita, then Shantae.
Sure, this is Nakia. My husband was really supportive throughout the entire ordeal. He didn't grieve in the same way that I did, which I guess is to be expected. I think everyone grieves differently. I cried a lot and wanted to talk about our loss, the loss of our son, to everyone. My husband was very internal about his grief and wanted to spend time alone through the loss. I think in the midst of going through, I didn't really understand his way of grieving, but I do understand that we all go through it differently. But we've really, the two of us, leaned on each other quite a bit during that time.
And Winnie?
Mine's a little bit different. I was divorced at the time that Ashley was killed. So, I have to say, I have to agree with Nakia. Everybody grieves differently, and men grieve differently than women. I do know that, we planned her celebration of life together. We made all of those arrangements together. And we tried to be inclusive for both of us. But after we had the celebration of life, I really didn't stay in touch with him. I reached out on a few occasions, but he had remarried and he had his life that he was living. So I can't address that issue. So I apologize for that.
No, that could be the norm. Yeah. Honestly, there's other people who might be in that same exact situation. So, it's good that you all came together in that moment. Yeah. Okay. And Kita? Kita?
Oh, okay, yes. Well, with the second miscarriage, where I went to about 5 months, my husband actually broke down on that one. But everything else afterwards, he was like Nakia had mentioned, he was very supportive, and he listened to me talk a lot about it, because that's how I believe I was able to heal as well, through talking about it over and over and over and over again. That's what really and truly helped me. Yeah, like I said, for the second miscarriage where I had to have it at home, I believe he was maybe overwhelmed. I don't know. But I didn't see him break down. He went into another room, but I did hear him. And but after everything else after that, he was just, silent mostly, and just let me talk about it. And I would ask him, certain questions. How did he feel? But for the most part, he was supportive and just listened to me talk a lot.
And Shantae, what about you?
He was quite supportive, but like you said, he broke down immediately. It took a lot for me not to break down while he was breaking down. How you say you try to be strong for one another, and try to stay cohesive. But yeah, we made all the decisions were made together between me, him, my mom, and his mother at that point. But they took care of everything.
I often see him posting on Facebook about him.
Yes,
he still
we
grieves.
do something. Yes, very much. That was his only son.
Oh.
Yeah, his only son. He only has one daughter. But that's his only child. So yeah, and then him being sick, so that didn't make it any better. And the first thing causes of MS is depression.
Yeah,
that was a hard pill to swallow. I'm still at disbelief 9 years later.
Yep.
Yeah. It seems like it happened yesterday.
Yep.
It never fades away. Your heart get bigger. You grow to love differently.
Yep.
Because loving a child, love is totally different from loving your companion. It's a total different ball game. It's another type of love that God created. I mean, I've never felt this in many years of living here. It's very odd type of love, but it is very strong that you can't break, no matter if you're dead or alive. Love will never change.
That's powerful right there. Even in death, the love of a parent to a child, that bond can never be broken. Only a parent can understand that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I have no clue what you're talking about. Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I can't begin to imagine.
I'll give you the love that you have for grandmother, like she your mom, that type of
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm. Yeah, because that wouldn't be able to separate what I feel for her. That death wouldn't be able to separate that.
Yes, that's what I mean. That type of love.
Mm. Mm.
The
So
love that you will walk
collectively,
up not collectively, that's how I feel.
yeah, collectively, you all agree that, the best thing you could have done during that time in order to cope with your grief is to converse with others, to let all of your feelings out.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
When I was studying on the topic for today, one of the steps in the grieving process is expressing yourself and placing yourself around people who are willing to listen to you for however long you need, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a counselor, because expression relieves and soothes sorrow.
It soothes your heart.
Hmm. Hmm. So to Winnie,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a question that I've wanted to ask you for a very long time, but for the same reasons that everyone didn't want to ask you about Ashley, is because we don't know how you would respond, especially bringing up your child who lost their life can, bring up so many painful, emotions. And so I've always wanted to know, what was the light at the end of your tunnel? Because I remember being at the funeral and I told someone here, I remember Ashley's funeral like it was yesterday. It was a beautiful funeral, and it just so happened to be the second funeral that I ever attended in my whole entire life.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so I remember you standing at the podium, and of course, you had tears, but the entire funeral you smiled. And I thought it was the strangest thing. As I expect a mother to be just breaking down and just rolling around on the floor, but she stood there, guys, like strong, and she literally smiled through her daughter's entire service. And I want to know what that light is at the end of your tunnel.
Wow. It's just like what y'all have said. It seems just like yesterday sometimes that it happened. There are still sometimes when I expect to see her come busting through the door or to hear her steps, hear her feet on the steps. And I smiled because I had so many children, so many of her friends, so many of the kids were there. And I needed to let them know it was okay, that it was going to be okay. And, and I needed to be there for them. Um, I didn't have a light at the end of my tunnel until probably about 4 years ago. I kept trying to find that light, and I did everything that I could to find that light. I pretended for a long, long time. And as you all know, you can't pretend forever.
Mm-hmm.
I will share this with all of you that I fell into the darkness and the depths of alcoholism.
Mm.
And I've been in recovery for the last 4 years. And
Outstanding.
it's changed my life. It's given me a different perspective on how my life is now and how it was before. My light came on when I came into recovery. It gave me a different way to deal with my grief and my sorrow. I was around most people that understood and that they do want to know about Ashley. They do want to know and they genuinely care. I will tell you that for the first 6 years after Ashley was killed, I was in counseling because that was a safe place for me. And my counselor had lost her daughter as well. My therapist had. So we had that common. And, there are people that come and go in your life. And I truly believe that these people that were brought into my life right after Ashley was killed, like these two therapists, were there to save me from myself. And those people right there actually could have been that light that I was looking for, because they gave me an outlet once a week to let go of everything. And I could be who I needed to be when I was in there with them. I could cry, I could scream, I could talk, I could not talk, I could be me. Because once I left out of there, I had to become somebody that I wasn't. I had to be strong for everybody. I couldn't cry. I had to smile. I had to pretend that I was okay. And on the inside, I was screaming with every fiber that I had. But yeah, like I said, people came into my life after Ashley was killed that guided me through what they were the guides. They helped me on my journey to get me to where I needed to be today. And I couldn't have done it. You know what, Stephanie? I couldn't have done it without everybody that we worked with, because all of y'all were part of my journey. All of y'all were there when I needed you to be there. You gave me hugs when I needed hugs. And so the journey has been a long one. It's been a dark one, but I have light right now. And like I said, sometimes it's dim and sometimes it's bright, but I have that light. I do have a light today.
I think you are your light, Lenny. When you push yourself. I think when you look in the mirror, that reflection that you see, that's your light.
Thank you. I can, maybe it is, maybe it's my higher power. I don't, maybe it's Ashley shining through me, but thank you for that. I need to hear that every now and
then. Keita, what about you? What was your light at the end of the tunnel?
I would have to say my light was actually being able to have my son, and like I told you, even through the midst of everything, even after I had him, I wasn't, clinically diagnosed, but I felt like I had postpartum depression. And he was the reason, I would smile and say, okay, I got to get through this. I got to, push through and get through this. I really felt because it took so much just to have him all those years. And even the very hard pregnancy, I believe he is my light.
And Shantae? It was my daughter. Mostly, I still had, someone else to look after. But she's been silly for a time. And, we still do play pranks and be silly all the time. Laughter brings healing. You may be crying, but you're still laughing at the same time, so you can't help it come above. So that's the best thing possible.
Okay, and Nakia?
Sitting here thinking about that question, I'm not really sure that there is a light at the end of the tunnel per se for me. I am certainly grateful every single day for the children that I do have. At the time, I just had Khalil, who was 6. I have been extremely blessed 2 years later after the loss of Caleb to have had Corey, my other son, and I am currently 37 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
Let the church say amen.
I don't know if this baby is a boy or a girl. We wanted this to be a surprise and just.
Oh my God, that is skeptical. That's on heels and heels.
we've had 3 boys, so we'll see what happens this time with the fourth.
Hopefully it'll be a diva.
But that's what everybody says.
Diva.
But I will say, I am thankful for every day of pregnancy. I don't take any day or any week for granted now. No week is safe to me. So there are constant reminders every day of that time in 2009 when we did lose Caleb. I definitely think my children are my light, but I move cautiously ahead and just trust God's plan as I press forward.
That's beautifully stated. Keita, what was one thing that people did during your grief that really annoyed you? Don't say bringing you food. Don't say bringing you food now.
One thing is when people would say, and I know they meant well. So I had to always check myself and say, you know what, they don't mean it like that. Like, but they would always say, well, you'll have another one.
Oh.
Yes. No, seriously. And it's like, no, I wanted this one. Why didn't I have this one? Like I said, I know people don't mean anything by it, but that was something that did annoy me. It did, Stephanie.
Oh, people, the stories I've heard from you ladies. Jeez. Oh, goodness. Winnie, what about you? What are some of the things that people did that really got under your skin and annoyed you during, that time? Even now, because grief doesn't end. So even now.
Well, when it all first happened, I think the thing that was really annoying to me was, there was a reason. And yeah, and God doesn't give you more than you can bear. And my dog died. I know how you feel.
What?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So and even today people say, there was a reason. There was a reason. And I have to stop myself and keep myself in check, because I'm like, how do you know? You don't know that. And I've, for a long time after Ashley was killed, I didn't have a relationship with the God of my understanding. I didn't. And not that I hated him or was angry with him. I just didn't, it didn't matter to me anymore. A lot of stuff didn't matter to me anymore. And so there did come a time when I got really, really ill. And, I had some issues with my son and with Ashley being killed. And, when they say God doesn't give you more than you can handle, I disagree with that, because he gave me more than I can handle. But because of him and his blessings, he allowed me to shut down. He allowed my brain to shut down because he knew I couldn't handle anymore. Wow. And it's because of him that I was able to work through some things and to start to heal in a completely different way. So, so I did have a lot of people tell me that too, that God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And I, now today when they say that to me, I just kind of look at them and I just give them a little smile, because you don't know what somebody has gone through. You don't know what anybody has gone through as far as losing a child. And listening to all of you women talk, holy moly, you guys are powerful women. Powerful. And I'm blessed to be on this with all of you. But yeah, people don't know what to say. And they're, and a lot of us, when we get nervous, we just talk. And I think that's what a lot of people do, is when they find out that you've lost a child, they just start talking and saying whatever pops into their head. So they don't really check themselves. So yeah, I think that really got me though was, yeah, my dog died. I know how you feel.
No, that's out of control.
Yeah,
that is out of control. That is out of control.
Yeah.
Yes. Shantae, she dropped off. She will come back in, so we can move on to the next question. So this one is a pretty serious question. What was the one thing that helped you bring? What was the one thing that helped bring you from a serious state of despair to coping and being able to accept your circumstance? Anybody can chime in.
Can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Absolutely, absolutely. What was the one thing that really helped bring you from a serious state of despair to coping and being able to accept your circumstance? Anyone can chime in. Because honestly, maybe the answer is that coping is just taking one day at a time. You never really heal fully from a situation. And some nights you may be in complete despair, while the next night you may feel a sense of joy and peace. So I think it varies with person to person.
This is Winnie. And so you hit on one of my favorite things of one day at a time. You know, we know the depths of despair and we know the highs of joy. And it's what you just said is exactly the truth for me is I have days where I'm in serious despair. And I never know what day it's going to be. I never know. I never know. Last Mother's Day, I had a great Mother's Day. It was, you know, a day filled with laughter and light and love. And this Mother's Day, I was in such a state of despair. And it happens day to day. I never know. But, you know, for everybody, it's different. And what you said, too, is you never heal. I don't want to say that I'm never heal. I think I have a little bit of the wound is not as deep. It's not, and it's not as open and as fleshy, and it doesn't bleed every day like it used to.
Yeah.
It still bleeds, not like it did.
So slowly but surely, slowly.
Yes, and it's one day at a time, and it's moving. It's being able to move forward, and to continue to move forward. Instead of taking 10 or 15 steps back, we still put one foot in front of the other, and we still keep going forward because we have no other choice. For me, I have no other choice.
Yeah. Nakia, what about you?
I completely agree with Winnie that it really is just a day-by-day process. You know, most days I'm fine and it's business as usual. But there are things that can trigger a memory or a thought back to that time and take me right back to those raw emotions. I think over time it's gotten easier, as well, to move forward day to day. I will say that, you know, in allowing myself the time to breathe and cope with the situation after the stillbirth, you know, it was really hard to come home and not bring a baby home with me from the hospital, as milk came into my breast and I lactated as if there was a child. As I, you know, my body healed over time from having a C-section from a baby that wasn't here, you know, having follow-up doctor appointments. I still had maternity leave because I had gone through, you know, that process. So following the C-section, I had that 8 weeks where I was home essentially, you know, by myself because my son is in school and my husband's gone back to work. we had a complete nursery set up. We were ready. We were ready for baby. And I closed the door of the nursery for about 3 or 4 months, never looked inside, never stepped foot inside. And one day when I was finally just ready to let go and let all of those material things go, I just posted on Craigslist, if you want it, you take the whole lot. And I listed a price, and a wonderful couple came. We talked for a long time about my experience, and they bought everything. They moved it out of the room. I didn't have to touch it. They packed it up. And that really was a blessing, not to have to relive by packing every item or getting rid of items piece by piece. And that was, obviously in the immediate aftermath. But you think, she's lost her baby and it just ends there. But I go home and I'm going through all of the changes as if I had a child with me. So it was very difficult. That, again, was the immediate aftermath. And ironically, I'll just share that very same couple kept in touch. And they did have their baby and they used everything that they got from me. But about 3 years later, they reached out and told me that they too had experienced stillbirth themselves.
Oh,
no. So this is so much more common than people think. And people just don't want to talk about it. That was the immediate aftermath, and now it's just a day-by-day process. Like I said, something can trigger, and it'll draw tears to my eyes. But through the grace of God, on a day-by-day, I'm doing much better.
That's good. That's really good to hear. And okay, you, Lakita, Shante, she dropped off. She's in an appointment, so we can just continue. We only have a few more questions to go through. So, Lakita, what about you? What took you from despair to being able to accept, your circumstance?
I would say, friends, loved ones, even people, people like you, Stephanie, calling me and checking up on me all the time and, sending me positive messages. And I would say things like that. My husband, that's how I got through it. And to be honest with everyone, I still deal with it. Like I mentioned in my, but I wouldn't say it's despair, but I am, like I said, nervous even just to have even more kids in the future, because of everything I've gone through with each and every pregnancy, So yeah, that part is really hard. I wanted to ask Nakia, how did you, if I could, Stephanie,
Sure.
real quick,
Sure.
How did you, how did you move on to say, okay, you know what, I'm ready to try again? I'm sure those fears were, inside with your pregnancy, your next pregnancy. How did you move forward, I guess?
1 second, I think. 1 second, I think she dropped. Nakia, let me bring her back in. Yeah, she just dropped. Let me see. 1 second. She's gonna come back in 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna try to pull her back in right now.
And you know what, Stephanie?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, and I'm not afraid to have more children. It's just that if I do, will I have to go through, hoops to have a healthy pregnancy, a healthy child?
Mm-hmm.
That's like my question, like.
I wanted to say something because it came to my mind when Winnie was talking about when people would say to her, there's a reason. I think people, when they say that, I don't think they know the magnitude of what they're saying. It could come across very offensive to someone who's actually lost. But when you look at the scriptures, there's a scripture, Winnie, in Ecclesiastes 3, where God is basically telling you there's a season for everything, and there's a time and a purpose under the heaven. And we all have certain points in our lives where we are faced with our own personal tragedies that we have to endure. Because, the kingdom of heaven is not just given, it's something that's earned, and it takes a lot of work. And I think when people say that, they're trying to comfort you, not really understanding that it's not really a comforting scripture to use in that time. This scripture is for when you have gotten to a place where you're not as raw emotionally and you can actually discuss something, Nakia just joined. You can ask her your question, and then I can finish. Kita.
Okay, Nakia, my question to you was pretty much how were you able to get through the next pregnancy without, I'm sure you did have some, reservations and everything, but what kept you, I don't even know how I want to word it, but how did you get through the next pregnancy without constantly thinking if, something was going to happen? Because I was saying that's something I'm dealing with even trying to have more children. Will I have to deal with so much just to have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy child,
Yep. And this may sound so cliche, but I constantly tell myself that I have to trust God's plan. Mm-hmm. And what he wants for my life is going to be. Mm-hmm. And what he doesn't want for my life is, if he doesn't want it for my life, it is not going to be. And I really find solace in that. And I'm not saying that that every step is easy. I have an ultrasound scheduled first thing tomorrow morning. And every time I walk into an ultrasound, my palms are sweaty, my heartbeat is fast, and I am expecting that they're going to tell me.
Did she drop? Can you guys hear?
No, I can't hear her anymore.
No, I can't either.
Okay. Dang, I was ready for what she had to say.
I know. But I can remember what she was saying, because that used to happen to me every appointment. I would get so nervous and just be shaking. My heart would be racing, like you said, sweaty palms. You just don't know. You don't know. What they're gonna say. And then
Winnie,
I have to rebuke demons.
Winnie, do you have any advice as far as that's concerned?
I have to agree with what Nakia said. Today I could tell you that you just have to trust in your higher power.
Mm-hmm.
That he's going to do the best that he can for you. The pain that you've gone through, it's horrible, and my heart hurts for you. It seriously does. Wow. I pray a lot.
Yes.
I pray a lot. And that's been one of my guiding forces in the last few years is my prayer with my higher power.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to give over control to somebody that you can't see, but that's where the faith comes in.
Oh, yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I
it is.
agree 100%.
Yes, it is. It's difficult.
Yep.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Faith is something that has to be exercised every single day.
That's right. Yep.
Yes.
It's like it's a spiritual muscle. That's what I say to myself. I gotta work on my spiritual muscle. I have to exercise my faith.
Yes.
And okay, Nakia, she just
I'm
rejoined.
sorry. I don't know what is going on. Technical difficulties here. Please forgive me. I don't even know. I don't even know how much you heard. I think the moral of what I was saying was I'm not going to walk in fear. God does not give us the spirit of fear. And whatever he wants for our lives is going to be. And if he does not want it, it's not going to be. It sounds so cliche. I hope it gives you a little bit of comfort, just knowing that he has you at every step of the way. And if it is not meant to be, or you have a similar experience that you've already had, know that you can still use it for good. And I think that's why we are all even on this podcast. I did also say that that's not to say that it's easy, because every time I walk into an ultrasound, my palms are sweaty, I'm sweating, my heart is beating fast because I've been there and received the worst. And I always have in the back of my mind that it could be again. But I dust myself off. I get in that car and I go to the ultrasound and I lay on that table, and it is just going to be what it is. And I do find solace in that, because I feel blessed to even have the story of having had Caleb and held him in his perfectness. And being his mother, I thank God every day for that opportunity. So just don't walk in fear. If you want it for your life and you've prayed about it and you are moving forward to try again, just trust God's plan.
Hello. Powerful words. Shantae just joined us. So, Nakia, I know that you have to go. Tell Khalil I said hello, and Kevin I said hello. And we'd love to have you back on. And thank you so much for joining us today and just, being very transparent and letting us in on your life and your grief. And bless you. Bless you.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. And thank you, Keita, for your question.
Okay. Thank you, Keita. Thank you. Okay, so in continuing on, one thing I wanted to know too, and I think Winnie and Shantae can answer this. How did the loss of one child affect the other siblings?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, so just to give you a short synopsis of my other child, I do have a son. It was Ashley's older brother, and when she was killed, he was in prison, and so the prison was kind enough, who knew that, they allowed him to have phone privileges for a whole week, and so he was able to be part of, the celebration of life of what was going into her casket, all of that other stuff. He was able to be included in. But even after he did get out of prison, he felt that he was entitled. He was that because his sister was gone, that he it wasn't just me that was and I knew that it wasn't just me that was grieving and that he was grieving, but he felt that I wasn't allowed to grieve anymore because I still had and that he should be enough.
Wow.
And, he's been in and out of prison since he was 18. He's now 36 years old, and he has been out of prison for the last 5 years.
Okay.
But our contact is very limited because of the choices that he has made in his life. And, it's difficult because he's my only living child, but sometimes you have to love from a distance because they can be dangerous. And, so
It
that's
can
where
make you self-destruct.
I'm sorry?
It can make you self-destruct.
Yes.
It can be crazy.
Yeah. And so today, I choose to love him from a distance, and I know that he hurts just like I hurt still. But he has to, it's just how it has to be for right now. It's just how it has to be.
But it will change, God willing, it will, definitely it will change, with time. You just never know. You just never know.
And I my favorite word is hope. I hold out hope today that, that things will change and things will become better for him and a better relationship for us. So I do have hope, that will change.
That hope is just another form of faith.
That's exactly right.
What about you, Shantae? How did Shania? How did she deal?
She holds it in for a while, and she had her moments, and still to this day, she still has them. I still have them too, but it's a lot more happier than grieving. We still celebrate, like he's here today for his birthday every year.
Yeah,
and, so it's still good. It's still a good vibe on that aspect.
Yeah. And I know this, our segment is about the loss of a child, but we actually just, Shantae, she lost her brother, who's, my cousin. We lost him last year. And it just seems like, it's like with death, it just, the grief changes, the cycle changes. It's one thing is never there. It's never the same. It's never alike. It's always different.
Yeah,
I agree. I've had two back to back. My dad passed, and then less than 30 days, Marcus passed.
Yeah, it's I don't know. So, for Keita, I know, Winnie, you were divorced at the time of Ashley's death. So Shantae and Keita, both of you are married. Well, Shantae, you were married to your son's father. When you lost your children, how did it affect the relationship with your spouse?
He drifted away for a while. It took a lot to get him to come back to earth. Like he had a natural high of, he just wasn't here. Mine was gone. It took some time.
But were you able to repair whatever connections that were broken between you two? Were you able to salvage a bond, or did it strengthen a bond?
It faded away. We still cool, but it's not the same.
That's unfortunate.
I agree.
And Keita, what about you?
I would have to say that I'm actually the one that's become a little more distant, and less affectionate, and it really has put a strain on me and our marriage. But he's, like I said, he's very supportive and understanding, and he's allowing me time to heal. Because I feel like, when you experience loss, no matter who it is, I feel like you get some type of post-traumatic stress.
Mm-hmm.
And it can affect people differently. In my case, I've become, more distant and even like I keep bringing up, wanting to have more children because I keep thinking about, all of the traumatic events that have occurred.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get to a point to where, I don't think about that as much.
Mm.
I'm still working on it. I'm still in the healing process, but that's definitely affected me. I feel like I have some type of post-traumatic, what is it?
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
And I don't think it's just for people who have been in the military. I think anything
no. No.
tragic, that has happened, whether it's, a divorce, a death, anything, that can traumatize you. So that's where I'm at. So I'm still in the healing process of everything.
Okay. So, and our final question, which I believe would be the most important question to end the segment with, is what advice would you give the grieving mother?
So this is Winnie, and the first year after Ashley was killed, I lived in a fog. I really don't have a lot of memory of that first year because I numbed myself, and I believe that we had said that before. We have a tendency to numb ourselves. We just don't feel anything. And I beat myself up a lot. For one, I was a parent. I was supposed to be able to protect my child. We're supposed to protect our children, and I couldn't protect her.
Now you give me your.
So I guess the advice that I would give to anybody, or the suggestions that I would give to anybody, is to find somebody to talk to. Don't be afraid to say your child's name. Don't be afraid to make people uncomfortable. Because it shouldn't be put on us to be uncomfortable just because we've lost a child. Don't let people make you feel less than.
Yeah.
Because you should not feel less than. Let people lift you up. Let people help you. Because I know for me, as a woman, I'm supposed to take care of everybody. I'm supposed to do for everybody. I'm supposed to fix everything. And I had a hard time letting people help me. I had a hard time letting people in. And we need help during this time. We need to take that hand that's being offered to us. Don't be afraid to talk. Find people to help you. It's talk about it. Say your child's name over and over and over again. You do what you need to do to make you feel better. To try to get to a different space, to try to get to a different space, to try to get to grieving is something that I do on a daily basis. It's not something that I do every other day or once a year. I do it every day. I grieve every day. But my grief has gotten softer, gotten gentler, and that takes time. And so for anybody that is grieving the loss of a child, it takes time, and be patient and take care of yourself. So that's all I would have.
Okay. Powerful, Winnie. Thank you. Okay, Shante, do you have anything that you would like to add?
It's a grieving process takes time, but you got to know you also had to celebrate instead of having it all be at a sad moment. You got to celebrate the life that when it was here, the memories, make them stay alive. They stay current and not fall to the back of your mind.
Mm.
And through God, things will get better. It'll be a healing process for him to help you.
Okay. And Kita. Oh, okay. Okay.
You know, I don't really have too much to add to that. I agree with them 100%. I would maybe just say, you know, in that process, it's okay to do things that make you happy. And I guess that would relate to what Shantae said about celebrating. But, you know, do things to make you happy as well. But
and keep a normal routine, a normal cycle of things, you know. Okay. So I want to end on that note by saying to all of you, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and sharing your stories. I am 100% positive that anyone who hears this podcast and they're dealing with a similar situation, they can only heal and move forward in light and love, because it takes a lot of courage to open up to something, you know, so paralyzing. And I want to tell everyone else out there who may be listening, it's okay to hurt and grieve, and you know, it's okay to even be angry. It's okay to question why, and it's okay that you may not understand, because honestly, no one understands death. No one, whether it's the death of a parent, a child, a sibling, aunt, uncle, best friend, husband, wife, no one understands. But what's not okay is that you hold in your grief. You have to let it out. You have to talk about it. So for those in a position of support, be a sensitive and active ear. That's where true supports start. Okay. And with that, I want to thank everyone for listening to the Project Discourse podcast.
Thank you.
And
Have
we'll
a blessed
see you
day.
again. Thank you, guys. Dealing with the loss of a loved one is a very tough experience for anyone. I want to remind you all that you're never alone, and there is always someone there to support you and help you through difficulties. Grief affects us all in various ways. There really is no specific way to grieve and no rule book dictating how you should feel. However, there are steps you can take to help you cope with loss. I can't stress enough that prayer is vital to your healing process. Take your cares and your concerns to God. He is listening. Express yourself with others. It's okay to converse about your grief. It's a very helpful way to soothe painful emotions. Make sure you talk to someone you trust, like a family member or a close friend. If you don't have either, there's always a professional counselor that you can seek. And remember, allow yourself to feel sad. Sadness is a normal part of the grieving process, and there's no time limit on how long you can feel sad. Make sure you keep your routine as normal as possible. Doing normal activities can help you. It can help take your mind off of the grieving process. Wash dishes, cook dinner for your family, take the dog for a walk. It's okay. Make sure you eat healthy. A healthy, well-balanced diet is vital to your healing process, just like prayer, and so is sleep. Make sure you're getting enough hours of sleep. Also, make sure you avoid anything that numbs your pain, such as alcohol or drugs. You don't want to take these things because they can worsen your situation. And if all else fails other than the prayer always works. Go to counseling. It's okay to seek out help. It's okay. And remember, there is no time limit on your grieving process.
Yeah.
show you a people, just take my hand. A people that was trodden down, taken from their land. Sold as a bondwoman, a bondman. A people brought back into Egypt once again. A people that is suffering from curses so real. And if you don't believe that, just check the back of your dollar bill. We the people with the grip on his brother's heel. So they brought us on ships with the intent to kill. Cause we the people of the prophecy. A people lost like hide and seek. A people numbered like the sand of the shining sea. A people on a trail of tears that stretches far back as the eyes can see. The people like a city on a hill. The people that was hidden is revealed. The people who eventually would rise up and tell the whole wide world that they time's up. People of the promise, the prophethood is ours, not Ishmael or Muhammad's. Our roots is in the Bible, it was never Islamic. The Arabs push it on us through slavery and violence. For hundreds of years, we've been suffering in silence. The people getting shot up by cops with the sirens. Dead bodies drop in the land that is spiritually Sodom. Now we trying to reach our God for asylum. We the people that was slain, the people that was hanged, hog-tied, beaten up and tamed. The people that's in need for a change. The people that the Father sent the Son to reclaim. The people that was bought with a price. The people of the Most High, the people of Christ. The people that was so damaged, but now we woke with the hope, singing Hosanna. Through the pages of the KJV, it's the lost SHEEP. All we wanna do is serve God and be free. We a nation of kings and a nation of queens, a royal priesthood with Jacob in our genes. And this they know, so the nations despised us, but it's only cause the kingdom's inside us. So they got a plot and scheme to divide us. It's a weak attempt to try to deprive us. They try to rob us, but yet still a diamond shines in the rough, can't change his will. 144,000 saints sealed, and the new city Jerusalem will still be built. We've been waiting for this time for the longest. Not a place to call our own, so we homesick. Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land.